you talk about the Division III roots that had an impact on this year's Super Bowl. This guy, Nick Sirianni, was at the forefront of a lot of that conversation. The Eagles head coach, he was a former football student, athlete, and a coach at Mount Union, and I think that got covered a lot throughout the course of the week. But as I go through this slideshow, the sweep that was posted by the NCAA and Division III here, you see Spagnuolo from the Chiefs, the defensive coordinator, who was a student athlete at Springfield, who had a hell of a run this year. You keep going down the list. And here's the quarterback's coach from Kansas City, who was at Geneva. And then you keep going on. Baldwin Wallace, the Eagles safety coach. And Dan Williams, the Chiefs quality control and assistant quarterback's coach, played at Stevenson. Keep going down. And their assistant O-line coach was at Williamette. And Kevin Saxton, the big lefty, was at Emory and Henry when they were Division III. I think that was before they made the jump to D2. A D3 hockey tie-in here with their research analyst. And finally, Tyler Brown, former football student athlete at Rowan, and Nick Cassetta, who was at Montclair State. So that's a ton of names rifled off right there, Jimmy. But what's really neat about that is all these guys have really influential ties to the Super Bowl teams, but none of them played on Sunday.
Yeah. It just goes to show you that there's so many aspects of the game, like outside of the players, that have a huge impact, like coaching. And it doesn't really matter where you come from either. Like, you know how we always say it doesn't matter if you're like a small school, they'll still find you. It's the same thing with coaches. You know, you got to think about it the same way.
And that's actually exactly what Mike Racy and I had talked about earlier on. He basically said the same words as you, man, and that the old adage is like, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're good enough, they'll find you. And it really does transcend just playing. For these guys, it was coaching, or it could be for administrators. It could be for referees, like we had talked about. All of those things can be very true. And I did have a couple clips here to hear from Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo about their time at small school football. So let's start things off here with who else?
Staff, including your DC. Is that a requirement to be on your staff, to have the Division III background? And what is about Division III that gets them ready for this level?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to start on the Division II non-scholarship San Francisco State when they still had football. So I understand all that.
Yeah.
And what you do is you build a foundation doing that. Selling hot dogs every Tuesday and Thursday and having enough money, to feed the guys during training camp. So it shows you certain things. Not everybody gets that opportunity. The ones that do really appreciate this even more than the guys that really appreciate it.
Coach, Division III football runs deep on your staff, including your DC.
So really neat piece right there. And then there was another one that I wanted to bring up, also from the Chiefs. And Sirianni had a soundbite too, but it was I thought these ones were a little bit better and kind of describing the experience at the D3 level. Here is Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator from Kansas City.
It all kind of began there at Springfield College, and from my time at high school to Springfield. And listen, way back then, that was the mecca of coaches coming. A lot of college coaches, and then guys that eventually ended up in the NFL. I was blessed to have things happen the way I did, but I owe a lot to the foundation that was built with Howie Vandersee, was our head coach at the time. And all the people there at Springfield College, Massachusetts. Loved it.
Sirianni, obviously, D3 product from
Yeah.
Mount Union.
Yeah, it's great to see.
Does that give you really more respect because you know what it takes?
Well, I think, listen, the profession we're in at the core is teaching. And those schools prepared you to teach and teach the game of football. So I'm glad I was able to go through that experience.
What do you tell prospective student athletes that are like...
Probably the coolest piece, Jimmy. Spagnuolo talks about the schools at lower levels preparing the coaches to teach maybe better than even at the highest of levels. And he talks about the profession at its core being that of teaching, right? Coaching is teaching. It's teaching your players and a lot of relationships and all these other, schematics and other deals as well. But when it comes down to it, it's teaching. And how well can you convey information to others? And I love his piece and his argument that some of these smaller schools really do prepare that teaching component, maybe even better than the larger institutions that have all the auxiliary services and assistant coaches here, and GAs running around and fulfilling all these different needs. And Coach Andy Reid talks about selling hot dogs during the week, as an extra little fundraiser, and just all the different hats that small school coaches wear. So some really cool pieces from both of them. Also wild that maybe not even a coincidence that these guys have kind of joined up having those kind of backgrounds.
Yeah, no, that's super, super cool stuff. Maybe we can get him on the show. I mean, hey.
Dude, if we had Andy Reid on the show, that would be, yeah, go ahead. You got that on the
I got
Yeah.
you. I can make it happen. Let's do it.
All right. All right.